Well, I would love to say that I'm thrilled that we came through with a victory, but the smartest person in the room, Samantha Smart, forgot, and I don't know how you forget, to turn in the entry to the tag team tournament. So now we gotta go through this again. IQ superior.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. This is your host, Mr. Green. How are you good folks out there in podcast land? Thank you for tuning in to the show and giving me another week of your time to go over some of the goings-ons in wrestling, particularly Wild Superheroes, in our weekly review of the program. If you listened to me last week, you probably were, expecting me just to go in and be like, I hate this nonsense. But no, I'm not going to do that. Yes, last week was a difficult show for me to swallow. It just was. But every series, every program is entitled to have their show where it just didn't kind of jive the way that it probably should have, and hopefully this episode, the 6th episode in their reboot, so episode 6 will be better. We will go through the review and see. As I've said over the last, I guess, 2 podcasts, and I'd have to say again, for those of you that think that you can do better at this, well, now's your chance. You get the opportunity to book your match. Go to CustomVixensWrestling.com. That is CustomVixens with an S, Wrestling.com. And you can create and book your own matchup. You got a couple of talented young ladies there that you could have at your disposal for whatever your fantasy match will be. There's a sample of such match available on our channel, the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. It is the Barefoot Brawl, featuring Fantasy, who is a name who has worked in the Southeast region for, I would say, much of the last 10 plus years. And then you have a fresh face with Autumn Marie, so you can check that out. Plus, at the end of that, there is a preview match featuring the Woad, which if you follow this channel for any length of time, you certainly have seen her, and Malibu. So those are good matches. Of course, we don't have the entirety of that one. It is a preview for you to look at, and surprisingly enough, that match is available now on their website under clearance videos. So if you want to see the whole thing, you can go and hit the clearance tab and pick that match out a little cheaper than what it was maybe, I think, 2 weeks ago. But Custom Vixens will allow you the chance and the opportunity to pick from their existing roster for one of their future film days. You have access to talents like Autumn Marie, Brooklyn Creed, Laura Lou, Sumiko, Roxy herself, Malibu, Riley Jade, maybe not the Black Widow right now. I think she's expecting. Crystal Fire, Mama Hannah, Peyton Storm Fantasy, and Alice Snow. That is Alice Snow, not Al Snow. So let's make sure that we get that correct. You pick the women, you pick the matches, you are in charge. Custom Vixens at CustomVixensWrestling.com. If you do make a match, let me know. Maybe you are a little better at booking than the individuals at WoW, but this will be one of the ways that you can find out. Wow, episode 6 pops back in with their normal start of the show recap and the old welcome to Wow, that whole shebang. So we go over the last episodes, the winners and the losers, and the most important part here is that it sets up for the eventual triple threat that will take place in the main event later on in this very episode. Why do we have a triple threat, you ask? Because in the previous match, where Sophia Lopez, the greatest attorney in the world, got a match for her client, Tormenta, she got her a main event championship match straight away. However, just before the Beast was seemingly getting ready to put Tormenta down for the 1-2-3 with a Beast Bomb, in comes Reina Del Rey, interrupts the match, and a three-way brawl takes place between all three ladies. And of course, what do you do when you have an instance like that? Well, you go directly to a triple threat match. So that's what they did. It's a triple threat match raring to go on the main event, and you will get the chance to see that. Well, I mean, you've probably seen it already. If not, you can probably go to their website. Let me rephrase that. You go to their YouTube channel, you can watch the match in its entirety. And I guess since I brought that up, I need to address something which kind of goes into what I was talking about last week, or last podcast, I should say, to be more specific. If you are unable to see WOW through CW stations or independent stations or any the syndication in your area, then your next option, and I know some people asked several times, so your next option would be YouTube. YouTube has a version of WOW on their WOW Superheroes channel. The difference being is that it is the entire show, but it's an edited version of that entire show. They remove a lot of the video packaging and the vignettes that takes place between the matches. So in a lot of cases, you get the matches out of context rather than here's what happened and let's go backstage and watch them talk, and then we go to the ring, and a lot of that's gone. But on the other side of the coin, they have interviews and things that did not take place on the show and are seemingly only available there on the YouTube version. So I don't know if they're doing this expecting people to watch both, or they're doing this to try to make sure that the people who are only able to see it through YouTube have no regrets that they aren't able to see it on TV. Like, hey, I can watch this and I get a little something extra. But either case, either way it goes, that is what has happened here. You have access to the show, but there are things that are taken away and things that are added to the YouTube version opposed to the broadcast version. So, and honestly, it's an easier watch on YouTube because it's shorter. It doesn't have any commercials in it that, of course, television would have. And being that it's 35 minutes and it doesn't have any video, which are very well done, the video packages and profile pieces and stuff like that, watching them during the course of the show sometimes drags the show down. I'm sorry, it just does, because it works against the purpose of the show. Looking at it on YouTube, you don't have that. So even though the matches are somewhat out of context, sometimes the match itself can explain it, and then they'll do something afterwards that'll seal the deal for you. Like, oh, okay, I got it. Like, in fact, Jessie Jones, when she lost a couple of weeks ago with BK Rhythm, when she invited herself to be in the match, there was after match interview that she had. Well, I mean, nobody was physically there holding the microphone, which I don't understand, but she was there with BK, and she's like, I didn't lose anything. She lost it. Nobody pinned my shoulder, that whole deal. Basically, just enough for BK Rhythm to be like, oh man, forget this, I'm out of here. So they had some closure to that impromptu teaming. The same way that the Bully Busters pretty much announced that they were going to be taking on the Heavy Metal Sisters. I want to say a week before they actually took them on in the show. But on the YouTube channel, I think Vivian Riviera announced that it was going to be those three, even though we never saw that on the televised version. So take that for what it is. Not a bad thing. It's just different. So we'll leave it at that. We started off with the recap segment. Like I said, they set up for the triple threat to go to the second segment of the show, which has David McClain sit down with Sophia Lopez, and he's explaining to her, hey, you came into my office, you had your client, you wanted me to give her a main event. I gave her that main event, and then you cheated anyway, and they showed a little recap of Lopez doing her manager thing, which again, I think that she's getting much, much better at. Same thing with Lana Starr. I think those two are the managers that they should focus on, quite frankly. But Smart's getting better too. So, but anyway, she hits. They showed a recap of Lopez hitting the Beast in the head with the Halliburton briefcase, and then of course it's like, all right, so I am going to settle this thing down between them. I'm going to put them in a triple threat match, and you, Sophia, you're banned until further notice, or something like that. So I'm assuming that this is their way to write her out of whatever programming that they have upcoming that she will not be participating in. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Hopefully they'll explain it when she comes back, or the band's lifted, or whatever the case may be. But this was because David McClain said that she cheated, and she would, basically created a PR nightmare for him. Although I'm not really entirely sure how that would create a PR nightmare for him, because it's not like the first time that anybody's cheated on the show. I mean, I can see if she just did insane, outrageous stuff, cheating every 2-3 minutes, or getting in the ring, or something like that. But WoW has not had a manager who's been that active to get in there, like the old school Bobby Heenans and Cornettes and Paul Heymans and whatnot. So you got to walk before, got to crawl before you can walk before you run. So, maybe they'll get to that eventually. So we're not going to criticize that too much. Segment 3, we are going into another bracketed match, or another match for the Invitational Tag Team Tournament. I noticed that they now use the term invitational, which I guess is their way of justifying not having anybody's name in the, as a listing of who's participating and what teams are here or anything like that. So since this is all invitational, you just show up when you want to. This has the team of Gigi Gianni and Adriana Gambino. Of course, that is a perfect mixture. The full-blooded Italians, I guess. Although, please, if they're listening, don't take that name. That's the FBI is already something that was used by ECW, later WWE, so we can't be using that. Foxxy Fierce and Chantilly Chella are their opponents. My first note that I put down here is that somehow Chantilly Chella is back in the tournament. It wasn't all that long ago, the first episode of this reboot, in fact, where the Tonga Twins beat Chantilly Chella and Randi Rah Rah in the opening round of the tag team tournament. And so you had the Tonga Twins advance, but now all of a sudden we got Chantilly Chella getting a second chance with an entirely different partner. And I would not have a problem with that if WoW acknowledged it. Just acknowledge, like, hey, it's an invitational tournament. You can't get back in with the same team, but if you change your partner, you're eligible to slot back in and get another shot. But you can only do it twice. I mean, make up something, anything, just to give it some level of semblance of logic and reality to it. But nope, she just popped back up in the tournament with a new partner. I prefer with the explanation I just gave. And I just did that just off the top of my head. It's like, hey, look, it's invitational. You can get back in. It's so long as it is not the same team. Another participant can get in. You get a different partner, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't do that. So I am forced to believe that they did not think this through. Gianna and Gambino, I will admit, although they look green, in the ring together, they do look good together. This is one of those things that if they work together long enough, maybe tag long enough, maybe get to work with people who are better than them long enough, they can actually forge a reasonable team and, be slotted as a higher rank team to be contended against, I guess, if you want to put that in there. The look is certainly there. That much I can definitely go for. That they absolutely have a fantastic look. And if I don't know what name they could come up with them for the two of them, but I think it would help if they started being featured more often. This is where my concern for Wild kicks in, because when they have something like that, Gambino and Gianni, who potentially could look well together, something like this, well, this is the time that you should feature them more so they get their star treatment. Then maybe they'll kind of rub off on fans, and you'll want to see them more often. But as it stands, with them being pre-taped and pre-taped so far in advance, like they're months in advance, that's probably very unlikely to happen, but we will see. Chella took most of the beating in this match. I guess to give the two, Gianni and Gambino, something good to do and somebody good to do with. But ultimately, it was Fierce that ate the fall. Surprise, surprise. Chella got eliminated, got put out. She gets eliminated from the tournament twice as they lose, Foxxy Fierce and Chantilly Chella. There was a backstabber by Gambino, followed up into a belly-to-belly suplex for the win, and the Italian girls walk away with the win here. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. There's a little note that I had put in. Foxxy Fierce does not hit the ropes well. I don't know what it is with that, but she just doesn't seem to do it. They also seem like the editing was in full gear here. They were like, the cutting on the action a lot. And whenever I see them do that, it immediately puts me in the mindset that something went wrong. Or it wasn't as smooth as it could have been, or something. It's like when you edit that heavily, it's almost like you're always trying to cover up something. And they did try that a little bit later on in the episode, and we'll get to that momentarily. The next segment featured Glitch the Gamer. Some of you may know her as Vert Vixen out there on the independent circuit. This is another video package, another personality profile, and I find myself asking the same question I ask anytime I see these. Why am I booing her? For what reason would I have to boo this woman? Like, first off, she comes off as very likable. She's talking about things that she loved, and then you got the promotion putting over. She's a cosplay model. She's a former GameStop TV host. She's the one at conventions like TwitchCon and stuff like that. It was like she's a competitive gamer right now, plus being a professional wrestler. Like, what is it about her that I'm supposed to dislike? All of these things are things that I like. And again, when she's sitting there in front of the camera talking, she comes off as very likable. I get the impression that when they sat down and did these personality profiles, the idea of sliding us in to skew your opinion about them as either babyface or heel was not part of the equation. They just like, just put them in there. Which it doesn't work well in this environment, because we're seeing these people almost directly before they get into the ring. And anytime we do see them directly before they get into the ring, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to lose. That's been the path that this has taken so far. Other people don't seem like they notice it. I do. I'm sorry. I just noticed that. It comes out of this, and keep in mind, like I said, this personality profile package does lead into a match. So you have this, and I am forced to believe that they did not give this thought as to where we're going to slot this. These probably would have been better if they just stuck it on their social media. and say, hey, go, if you want to meet these people, go look at them or something like that. But to put it in the course of the show, for a good chunk of the people who were assigned to be the heel, they had them talk about their personal life, their personal problems, their personal accomplishment, their personal defeats, and things like that. Does not make them unlikable. In fact, it goes the opposite direction. Why would I boo them when they're giving me this backstory of stuff that, sometimes you largely might agree with? So I think that works against them, which is, again, goes back to what I said about the YouTube show. The YouTube show, although it just has the matches, sometimes it works better that way. Segment 5 features Coach Campanelli and Randi Rah Rah 2.0 backstage in a meeting. Campanelli walks in, into this locker room or whatever you want to call it, and hey, how about that match last week? And you're welcome, by the way. And, Rah Rah's like, yeah, we should talk. And, matter of fact, I got this match coming up. Why don't you watch it and we can talk about it later and, all that stuff. So this is the second time that we've seen Campanelli and Rah Rah backstage in some level of meeting. And I have no idea where this is going. I mean, they met before, and it was probably like a minute and a half, and it seemed as if Campanelli was going to be the heel there, and maybe she was helping Rah Rah for her own selfish purposes. But then you have this, and like, okay, well, is it Rah Rah that's asking for her help so that she can continue to win? Is she using Campanelli? Because Campanelli had a video last week which showed her to be, in my view, completely useless. And I don't mean that as a knock against the wrestler. I mean, that's just the way that they presented her. It's like they did her as the polar opposite of what Mr. Perfect did. If you are like me and you can remember that far back, Mr. Perfect had a series of vignettes, which were, some of the greatest stuff that WWF did at that time, where he was explaining who Mr. Perfect was and that he did everything perfectly. And he went through all these sports scenarios where, I do this, I do that. He bowled a perfect game, hitting nothing but strikes, threw a football downfield, caught it himself, hit a home run, basketball shot without looking. It was just everything he was doing was perfect. Well, Campanelli was like the opposite of that in the clips that they showed. Everything that she tried to do, it just, even though she did it with complete confidence, like she had no doubt that she was going to get it right or win or whatever. Like she did the behind the back basketball shot and looked like, yeah, I know I sunk it in. That thing didn't go nowhere near the basket. So I don't know what, they're trying to do with Campanelli. Are they making her out to be, somebody who could be easily manipulated? Is she a lackey? Is she healed? Is she babyface? Is this a feud? Is a rivalry being built? I have no idea. They don't give enough, but I can't really criticize it because I don't know where they're heading with it yet. So, I am willing to allow things to play and run its course before we get into those things. So, just all I can say is keep your eye out for it, and if you see any noticeable changes in the characters or the personalities, that'll probably be what we need to see where this is going. The sixth segment, which is the match, we have Glitch the Gamer versus Randi Rah Rah. Now, keep in mind, we just saw Glitch the Gamer video package, and then you got Rah Rah with her backstage confrontation, if you want to call it that, with Campanelli. But the thing is that Glitch comes out and she starts making fun of her opponent. So now we know that, all right, well, I guess Glitch is the heel in this equation because she's making fun of Rah Rah as a cheerleader. Showing that she could do it too. She does cartwheels and does like cheerleader stance and all that good stuff. Rah Rah basically does a forward flip into a collar and elbow tie-up, and then the match gets underway. Nothing really big to important to talk about there. I mean, it was a competent match. Didn't have the pace that I'm used to seeing girls like Vert Vixen do. or glitch in this case. It seemed like it was slowed down like half a step for whatever reasons. Also looked like there was a corner spot that was messed up. The glitch sends Rah Rah into the corner. She charges in, and Rah Rah lifts both her legs like she was about to come over top of glitch into a sunset flip position or something like that. But glitch nails her with a forearm shot, catches her right there in the corner. Which, again, I'm not bothered by a botch in the ring, because wrestling is harder than people make it out to be. I'm not one of those people that's gonna sit out there like, you messed up, No, those things happen. Now, if it's just turned into a train wreck and it's just mistake and miscue on top of miscue, that's different. But when you have one like this, you have somebody like Glitch who could probably turn it around, which I'm assuming that she did, because she charged in, caught her with the forearm shot instead, and then just reset the move. Sent on to the other side. This time it goes through. The only thing that doing it immediately after you reset the move is that it does make it pretty obvious what you were trying to do the first time and just messed up. Maybe they could have, taken 2 or 3 more steps in between that before they got to this point. But nevertheless, she goes in, she gives it a try, tries to charge her in the corner like assumed to be the first time, but she got caught in a sunset flip. Ultimately, Glitch takes over. And once she gets to the point where she's like game over and she's getting ready to put her away, she set her up for, we'll call it her version of a GTS, to go to sleep. But we hear the whistle blowing. Campanella's coming out blowing the whistle, and she's getting up on the apron, and the referee say, "Hey, get down, you can't be up here." And then Glitch hits the what I guess is her finish on Rah Rah. She throws up, falls back, kicks her in the side of the head, and drops Rah Rah. But instead of covering her, you guessed it, she goes over there and starts giving Campanella a piece of her mind. What are you doing? Why are you up here? Well, you don't need to be here. Blah 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 blah. So her distraction gives what was once known for being overdone in the WWE, the distraction roll up. And that's how we have Rah Rah come out on top. She's distracted. She being Glitch is distracted by the coach. Rah Rah comes from behind with a roll up, 1, 2, 3, and she gets her second win. So we are moving on. We have Campanelli taking Rah Rah out of the ringside. And again, I don't know where this little thing between the two of them is going, but it's going somewhere. Segment 7 has a backstage video, which starts off with the Disciplinarian and Samantha Smart having a conversation. We're walking into the middle of this, so it's not important what they're talking about. What's important is that Jessie Jones busts in, and she pretty much invites herself to be the Disciplinarian's partner. The first thing she does, she takes the gum out of her mouth and grabs Samantha Smart's hands like, "Here, hold this." So she's starting off rude with him. So even though it is a all-heel team, it's the kind of no honor amongst thieves scenario. And Jessie is surprisingly in the role of not talking down to him, but treating him down, treating him as less than. Like I said, she comes in, grabs Samantha Smart's hand, and just takes her gum out of her mouth, her own mouth, Jessie Jones that is, and sticks it in Samantha Smart's hand like, "Hold this." So now Jessie's going into this whole shebang, explaining her situation, which, let's call it for what it is exposition for the audience, so they know what's going on and what's happening. But they did do it in a way that it didn't come off as obviously exposition. It's like, hey, look, Dave McClain, they took the belts from me last year, even though I won them fair and square. I mean, now this isn't verbatim, so don't be looking for this out of her mouth. But she basically saying that, hey, I'm forced into getting into this tournament, and that's the only way that I'm going to get my belts back. And you two are smart, and I'm the smart choice. I haven't been pinned. I haven't tapped out. I haven't lost here. So here's the paper, which, in this case, is the paper is supposed to be the application to get into the tournament. So she hands the paper over to Samantha Smart. It's like, here's the paper, so you turn this in, and we'll go on to be a team. All right, I'll see you guys out there. So Jessie, like I said, essentially just invites herself to be part of the team, despite the fact that, she didn't even give him a chance to speak or anything like that. She just came in just talking away. And so when she leaves, the disciplinarian and Samantha Smart look at each other like, what was that about? And Samantha's like, I don't know. They get a close-up on the paper, and Samantha tears it in half. So we know that that's not going anywhere. The next thing we have is the actual match. Now, I don't remember whether they say something like, hey, this was taped earlier today, or they put a little caption or a lower third, like earlier this evening. So they probably should do something along those lines. I mean, yeah, I know it takes away the cinematic nature of it, but it gives an idea of what they would like the WoW universe to be. Like, to know that was supposed to be hours ago and not necessarily 2 minutes before the match start would help, I guess, in some regard. So, in any case, this is segment 8, and we have Princess Aussie now entering the tag team tournament. Matter of fact, no, I tell a lie. This is not a tag team. But this is the person that she teamed with in the previous match, Princess Aussie and Tiki Chamorro. They are taking on the Disciplinarian and Jessie Jones with Samantha Smart. This match is all about Jessie Jones. She is the purpose of this match taking place. She is the angle in the match. Everybody else there, it's sorry to say it, but everybody else there at that particular time was just there to serve the purpose to forward Jessie's angle. So the match, I won't say it's not important. It actually was. It was important, and it worked well. I think out of the 4 participants, you have 3 of them who were pretty well experienced with Aussie and Jones and the Disciplinarian. So it moved pretty well, and it probably gave Chamorro the opportunity that she needed to be in the ring with some people that could help her and help, move her through, do this, don't slow down, and so I didn't have a problem with this match at all. Quite frankly, I thought it was a pretty decent match. It did get off the rails at times when they had too many people in the ring, but outside of that, no, it was enjoyable to watch. The heat is mostly on Jessie Jones. There's a point where Chamorro is in control, and she was getting ready to do her variation of a 619 until she got cut off by Samantha Smart in the yardstick. Good on Samantha Smart. This is one of the things that I've been saying about their managers, and all of them, all 3. I know they say Mesmer was classified as one, but until I see her and admit to her being a manager on TV, I'm not going to acknowledge it. So all 3 have done well. All 3 have started to get themselves involved, rise to the occasion, and do what a manager does. You got a little bit more cheating out of Sophia Lopez. You got a lot of arrogance and attitude out of Lana Starr, and I know last season Smart took a big bump off of the Beast, got beast bombed, and here she sees the young lady coming across with a 619, pops her in the back with a yardstick. And this is one of those cases that I will stand by the yardstick, because I said before, and I'm on record as saying, and I don't change my mind, I think that Smart should use the paddle. Or, at least have that as an option. That you could believe somebody could get knocked out in. But in this case, when you got this person swinging through the ropes, and all she needs to do, I just need to distract you long enough so that doesn't impact my client and impact my team. And that's what she did. It was pretty good timing. Smacked her right there. Boom. Gave Jones enough room to get free and take control of the match. Loved it. Getting towards the end, the Disciplinarian, and this is why I say I'm going to just put this down on that. When you have some vets, they do things like that. Disciplinarian cuts Aussie off on the outside. Make sure that she cannot get back in that ring to stop this match. And it's the little things like that that make the difference. Rather than that person had to sit there and look like they're tired or that some force field got in their way and they can't jump back in the ring. Nope. You got the heel, cut her off, bam. She can't get back in because I won't let her. So that I liked. Again, it's the little things. And inside the ring, in the meantime, Jones does what Jones does best. She locks Chamorro down after an arm breaker and ties her up into her submission and taps her out. So we got through the match. Entered, and like I said, I know I said it wasn't really important. It was all basically to forward Jones's angle. But if, when I think about it, if there's something out of here that you would want to watch, I would say this match, Princess Aussie and Chamorro versus the Disciplinarian Jones, and then the other qualifying, Foxxy Fierce and Chantilly Chella with the Gianni and Gambino. I was like, that's probably the order I would move it in so far. But anyway, at the end of this, you got Jones. He gets the microphone, and then she starts, all right, Dave McClain, you see that? I did what I was supposed to do. I turned in the paper, so you put me in the tournament. So now we know Dave McClain has multiple roles on this show. He's the lead commentator. He's the authority figure. He's the in-ring interviewer. So, just another job for Mr. McClain. David gets up and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's just out of luck. This is not a qualifying match for you. I never got that paper. And he asked AJ Mendez and he asked Stephen Dickey, who honestly, if you weren't paying attention to this show, I mean, you probably wouldn't even know AJ Mendez worked there. If you didn't look at the credits or something along those lines, because outside of he might say a name here and there, in the commentary, I really don't understand the purpose of her being on TV. They haven't exploited it yet. And most times she feels like she's just reactionary as far as calling the match. It just needs to be a 2-person booth to get your money worth out of her. That's all I'm saying. Stephen Dickey and AJ Mendez, that's who it needs. Anyway, so she says this. McClain says, I don't have it. I'm sorry. You're just out of luck. And she's like, no, that's a lie. That's horse manure because I filled it out myself and I gave it to Smart and she turned it in. So I like this that, Jessie just assumed that Samantha Smart was going to do what she told her to do and turn the paper in. This I have to admit, this was entertaining for me. And, and David McClain was not over the top and silly. He was neither of those things. He was just, hey, look, I'm sorry. He came off to me as sympathetic towards Jessie, but at the same time, look, I'm sorry, I don't have it, so there's nothing I can do. I told you if you want to be in, you got to do this, X, Y, and Z. I still haven't gotten that yet, so, whatever. And, that's when Jessie realized that she didn't turn it in. She turns to somebody else like, you had one job to turn in the paper. Now, on the one hand, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't really hurt Samantha Smart because like she just made a decision. I want to be with you. And now to give that thought, it does make sense because the second that Jessie walked into that room, she was talking down to both the Disciplinarian and the Samantha Smart in a roundabout way. She wasn't doing it on purpose, I guess, if we're going to take it in the kayfabe universe. She wasn't doing it on purpose, but she was talking down to him. So it would make sense that a Samantha Smart and Disciplinarian like, I don't want to tag with this woman. I don't care who she is or how her record's been, which is surprising because you got Jessie Jones who basically carried the Disciplinarian to maybe her first win in like 2 seasons. So, yeah, I mean, again, everything here, all the pieces fit. There was nothing to be gained from Aussie and Chamorro winning. Jones has to continue on her thing. It gives Disciplinarian a win also. It gives Samantha Smart and Disciplinarian, again, the means to do this, to no honor amongst thieves. Because even though we're technically on the same side of the locker room, no, I don't want to tag with you. So it was a small part there, but a good part nonetheless. Like I said, David McClain was not over the top here. He almost always looks like he has a smile on his face for some reason, but he was not in that position. He wasn't giggling and laughing or being anything ridiculous. He was the authority figure. What can I say? Very easy to follow. Good stuff. And I'm looking. Jessie Jones, for me so far, has been a dream on this show. It is the only wrestling angle that I have. Everything else has been more or less carried out in some sort of vignette or something like that. I mean, for the most part, because we haven't really, the Beast hasn't got on the microphone. She's performed. She's done the backstage thing. And Tormenta haven't spoken. Reina Del Rey is, pretty much there. And it's still kind of cold. I mean, this triple threat was I can't really say it's out of nowhere, but I don't know if it warranted that yet, or at least it may have needed to have them all speak about how I'm going to tear the other one up, just to give me a little bit of something behind it. The Jessie Jones stuff has been, great. I mean, it's kind of spaced out, but I never would have viewed Jessie Belle as an actress, and I don't know if she considers herself that, but she does very well. She's always done a great promo. She's always been good on the microphone, but I didn't know that she would do well in the vignette portions also. She does. She's pretty well-rounded in the Wild universe, and she's another one of those talents that's been on the indies that, for the life of me, I can't understand why she hadn't gotten at least a chance. Like, at least a chance to be on Impact or AEW's women's division or something like that. Although I don't know if I'd even want her to go there. I would be afraid that she would get lost in the shuffle. But, it's at least a chance. She's good. And if I had any sort of pull in this universe, she'd be, at least get an opportunity someplace. But again, yes, it was good angle. Still interested in it. Ready to see where it's going. The next segment, another video package setting up the main event, which will be following this, and the fact that Sophia Lopez is banned from ringside. So the thing that I wrote when I heard that as I was watching it is that I assume Tormenta takes the fall. Sorry, spoiler. So we got to the main event, and we got our participants: Tormenta, Reina Del Rey, and the Beast. This is for the Wild Championship. So I only assumed Tormenta because I felt like the Beast and Del Rey's feud needed to continue on, and this was just a pit stop along the way. And that's pretty much the feeling that I got from that. Not to devalue the match. The match was fine, and the match was what it was. It's not an easy thing for people to orchestrate and work a triple threat match. I've been in that room when they, and I probably shouldn't have been there, but I've been in that room and, some occasions where they're trying to work out, okay, I'm going to do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. And these are people who are used to calling it on the fly. They're used to calling it out in the ring. But, it's like you have to have this rotating door of participants in a triple threat match to keep, I guess, it fresh at some point so you're not clustering each other. Or at least that's what it was turned into in, over the last 10 years or so. But again, the match, what it was. The major portion of this match, first off, is short. So let's just, if it's 5 minutes, I'd be surprised. But so it's short. And at some point, the major high point is this. Both Del Rey and the Beast find themselves on the floor. Tormenta climbs the top rope while they, are doing the face-off, they being the Beast and Reina Del Rey. And Tormenta comes down off the top to the floor and crashes into both of them. Why is this important? Because I think from this point out, the Beast may have gotten, I think she got hurt here. From this point, she's hopping and hobbling around, needing to get help up from the ref. I mean, at one point, it's like, okay, is she selling this? But I am relatively sure, I would say I'm 99% sure that she just got hurt and it was a bad hit. So they get back into the ring. And she's not all that mobile. I mean, she doesn't look like she's struggling necessarily, but she's not mobile either. So we'll just get to the end portion of it because, again, I don't think it's really all that important what took place in between, other than Del Rey did a nice cartwheel into a sunset flip, kind of. I mean, it's almost like a cartwheel sunset power bomb. I guess that's the only way I can really put it in words. That was nice. But anyway, like I said, the cannonball off the top rope to the floor, that was the first thing. The second thing is that we get Del Rey out of the ring again. So, the Beast puts her out. Then she goes out to Tormenta, kicks her in the stomach, and sets up for her power bomb, the Beast bomb. And it was messed up. It was messed up because as soon as she got her up into that upper seated position to come down on the power bomb, she just crumbled over. Now they tried to cut this by jumping to a close up of the shot, and so you couldn't really see it all that much. It was just like boom, blinking, you missed it. But she got her up into that position and came down, and they're like, "Oh, she hit her with the power bomb, 1, 2, 3," and then that was it. She, the Beast retained. She's still champion. But if you watch that match, and I'm sure they'll put it up, like they have all the other ones, it seemed to me like once she got her into that standing position, her leg might have just given way. She couldn't hold it anymore. It just came down. She just came straight down. And it wasn't anything close to a power bomb. It just kind of dropped her. But she she went to immediate cover and just, closed out the match. Assuming that she could have continued on. I mean, I don't know how bad the injury was. And she might not have been able to continue. She might have been in too much pain, and she was just trying to gut it out to get to the end. But it would have been nice if she could have called an audible. I mean, just not trying to diminish or discount the situation that she was in. That's why I say assuming she could have gone further. It would have been nice if they could have called an audible, because I know it was a very awkward way for their champion to end the show. Up until this point, she's been completely dominant in how she's been presented. Her power, her clotheslines, the way she slams, her walk, the spear, the power bomb, everything that she's done has largely been very power-based, very impactful. WoW has done a lot to protect that, and I know that they put her in the ring with people who could really make her look good. So she definitely needs to be thanking all of them after their matches. But assuming that she could have done it, maybe she could have applied a submission or something like that. I mean, again, just to help keep the aura alive, because I'm sure she probably was as disappointed as anybody else. I have no reason to believe that she would be happy or satisfied. Really, I mean, not just the look, but you dropping somebody. You got people's lives in your hands when you're in a wrestling match, when they're trusting you with their body. So I'm sure she didn't like that she couldn't hold her. And, hey, sometimes we see it with, other places where they're like, oh, I had to finish the match or make it look good or this, that, and the other. But there's no shame. And if I can't go anymore, let's just go ahead and take this home and finish it so we can move on. And that may be what she needed to do. So, there's that. And I know that it was, probably the protocol of this episode, like I said earlier, to cut on the action. And this was one of those cases where you had to cut on the action and try to save the match as much as possible from a video standpoint. But yeah, it really was, unless they were going to do the spot over, it really wasn't much else they could do with that. So I can't blame the editing crew, the video production crew for that either. all in all, the show is fine. Again, the angle that keeps me invested in it right now is the Jessie Jones angle. It is the one thing that they took from the previous season and kept going. That's probably why I'm so invested in it, because I just finished watching and reviewing the unaired season, which led up to this, which this now picks up from that, and is the only thing that has any sort of continuity. And I was impressed right from the get-go. I was like, wow, they actually acknowledged that she won the tag team championships. I was completely impressed. I mean, just absolutely impressed. They never acknowledged that. So, I mean, that it works for me. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Just an odd thing that I found in the course of the show, David McClain uses the word revenge a little weirdly. I mean, coming to revenge. It doesn't say coming to get revenge or coming to avenge, coming to revenge. And I mean, and he said this like 2 or 3 times over the last couple of shows. I mean, your dialogue is your dialogue. It's just comes off very weird to me. It's like you're skipping a word here, David. Why can't you say coming to get revenge? What's so hard about that? Coming to get revenge or coming to avenge somebody. You don't not just come to revenge. Whew. Okay, yeah, that probably was the teacher in me that had to come out here for a second. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and tuning in to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs Pro Wrestling Podcast and the review of WoW and yet another episode of continuity and colorful characters, an angle that's actually got me relatively hooked at a tag team tournament that I'm still trying to make heads or tails of. So WoW is a very unique and interesting entity. But I was getting to the close here, so let's reset that. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning in to the show. I appreciate your time and patience and being willing to listen to my point of view as far as what this program is about and how good or bad it is from time to time. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the venue where you are, preferably YouTube, in the comment section, or you can email me at mrgreen75@hotmail. And also the social media platforms to which the Women's Pro Wrestling Network exists. That being Instagram, or better yet, you can go to WPNWrestling.com because that has links to all our social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It is all there. So if you go to WPN.com, it is the nexus for all things Women Pro Wrestling Network. Podcast, video stream that runs 24 hours a day, links to our YouTube, and more. And with that, I think I've sold enough. So I would like to say, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying, so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.